Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. And I'd like to say thank you to you all for being here this afternoon. As you know, we are gathered here today for a very special purpose, to pay tribute to a most distinguished member and friend of the Persatuan Ekonomi Malaysia, Dato Dr. Haja Mahani Zainal Abidin, who passed away on 22nd of June 2013. All of us in PEM would like to place on record our gratitude for her dedicated service to our association and the many contributions she had made as our honorary secretary 20 years ago, when she was younger, starting her academic career at the Faculty of Economics and Administration, University of Malaya. It was a great honor for us later when she agreed to be Deputy President in 2008. With her as my deputy, I knew I had an experienced veteran to help me as President of the PEM. On behalf of the PEM, I would like to request all of us here to observe a minute's silence in her honor. Thank you very much. I wish to thank Tan Sri Azman Hashim, Chairman of Bank, for your attendance and your bank's support for this occasion. As a non-profit organization, we truly appreciate any help that we can get from members and supporters to help defray the costs of holding events such as this one. I'm sure I also speak for the members of her family who are here today, headed by her husband, Don Miller, and her mother, Datin Mayun, is also here today, seated in our table in front here. I'm sure they will also wish to thank Tan Sri Azman and Bank for your kind support. Dato Dr. Mahani's childhood, her education, her illustrious career as an academician in the University of Malaya, her service to the nation and the society, and her writings have all been well documented in the special issue of the Malaysian Journal of Economic Studies, which Tan Sri Azman has kindly agreed to launch in a short while. We believe, as Dr. Mahani devoted her life to the teaching and practice of economics, and as a university professor and policy advisor to the government, who loved to write on various economic topics, it would be most appropriate to pay our respects to her by producing this special issue. Congratulations to the editorial board of the MJES for this excellent special issue of the journal, and to the close friends of Dr. Mahani who worked together to write a tribute to her in the journal. Their effort in putting together the journal and writing the tribute is a labor of love for their dear friend. Dr. Mahani became well known to the public by her frequent articles in newspapers, her interviews with the media, and her appearances on TV, talking about the country's economic policies and social issues. She was a keen participant in public conferences and seminars and in government meetings. The country has truly lost a remarkable educator and thinker who was always keen to share her views with the public in both the Malay language and in English. As I know her personally, I had a great respect for her views about what the policymakers needed to do in making this a happy and prosperous country for all of us. She had the privilege of working with the National Economic Council to make her views heard at the highest levels. And when she joined the ISIS, I'm sure she felt this was another opportunity for her to make a difference for our country. I'm pleased to welcome our ISIS friends to this ceremony. There are quite a number of them here. I think seated. Can you put up your hands there? Yeah, quite a number of them at the back. It is unfortunate that she did not live long enough to realize the ambitious projects that she had planned in your strategic organization. There are also many alumni of the Faculty of Economics and Administration of the University of Malaya here today. We all felt we lost one of the best among us when we heard of the sad news that she had passed away. We will remember her as she was, especially the familiar smile on her face that is captured in the picture at the beginning of the special issue of the journal. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang bahagia Tan Sri Muhammad Sharif Muhammad Kasim, President of the Malaysian Economic Association, the Vice Presidents, Executive Committee members of the Association, Mr. Donald Miller, Mahani's husband here, yang bahagia Dati Mahyun, Haji Amin, mother, and Mr. James Imran Miller, the son, is here. Authors of the articles of this special issue, the Board of Editors, members of the Association, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. Firstly, I must thank the Executive Committee of the Malaysian Economic Association for giving me this honor and privilege to be a part of this function to honor the memory of the late Dato Dr. Mahani Zainal Abidin. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we should start with a prayer for her by reciting the Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Ar-Rahmanirrahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Thank you. All of us have lost a dear friend, and the country has lost an illustrious daughter. This afternoon's event allows all of us to find a voice and pay respect in a meaningful way to an extraordinary Malaysian. I would like to thank everyone for your presence and time this afternoon to honor her memory. It is also an opportunity for all of us to convey and extend our deepest condolences to the family, the husband, mother, and son who are present here today with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I know most of you are familiar with her activities in the past, but I would like still to remind ourselves of what she has achieved. As an economist, she is remembered among many things, including her academic excellence and scholarly research, contributions to problem solving within national institutions, and practical contributions in association with the private sector. She also has special expertise in industry-level studies on international trade and finance, which resulted in her being accorded international recognition. Her specific interests in international trade were issues related to regional integration, ASEAN and East Asia, trade and services over time, services liberalization issues, and so on. She also had an expert economist view of the macroeconomic management of our economy through her work with the National Economic Action Council, the NEAC, which was embedded in serious policy-making processes. It represented a perfect opportunity for her to understand the policies and politics that underline the functioning of an economic system. Through the NEAC, she contributed to the national economic development when the 1997 Asian financial crisis hit the Malaysian economy and made the government of the day understandably very anxious. An important tool for recovery was the establishment in November 1998 of the NEAC, which was set up by the government to formulate, implement and monitor recovery measures for the Malaysian economy. Mahani was invited to be a member of the working group in 1998, and in 2001, she was appointed head of NEAC's Special Consultancy Team on Globalization. Mahani was also Deputy Director General, Department of Higher Education, under the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. And she assisted in the sectoral commitments of the ministry in different trade arrangement agreements, and continued to be appointed to positions of increasing responsibility and authority. In March 2007, she was appointed Director General of ISIS by the Prime Minister, and in 2010 confirmed as Chief Executive, a post she held until the end. Through ISIS, she established active programs of discussions with the academia, private sector, and political elites towards problem solving for the nation. She also emphasized research within ISIS. Her last project was a book to document 50 years of Malaysian economic development in all sectors since independence. This book was entitled Malaysia, Policies and Issues in Economic Development, published in 2011 under the sponsorship of the Prime Minister's Exchange Fellowship Program of Malaysia. Besides all these things, she also had other public appointments, such as board member of the Employees Provident Fund and deputy chairman of the National Accreditation Board, which oversees adherence to standards by institutions of higher learning, and commissioner of the Land Public Transport Commission, which was established in 2010 as an initiative of the Prime Minister to raise the level of land public transport services. In addition, she was also a member of Malaysia's negotiation team for the World Trade Organization, WTO, and also the Malaysia-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, JCPA. She was also appointed a member of the International Steering Committee for the Pacific Trade and Development. She was, of course, she had much experience with the private sector and was consulted by various companies. Her interest in services liberalization issues led her to work with the ASEAN Economic Forum, a network of ASEAN economists who had worked with Carsten Pink from the World Bank Institute. This network serves to groom economists and officials from ASEAN member states in researching liberalizing trade services. Now comes to my part is the M-Bank Group. The M-Bank Group was fortunate to have had 10 years of her presence with us. We remember her as always being cheerful, smiling and radiant. She was unassuming, helpful and humble. She had a good and wide network of close relationships, which included contacts from here domestically and also internationally. Certainly, she was one of our most eminent economists, very articulate. She always communicated even the most complex economic theories well, and her friendly manner, not surprisingly, made her one of the most sought-after commentators on economics. She was always professional and extremely knowledgeable, given her extensive experience in economic policies and her background in academia. Her special expertise in higher-level studies, her economics view of macroeconomic management of the economy, had left an indelible mark during her 10-year tenure with our group. We remember her as being always cheerful, as I said earlier. Her enthusiasm and smile lighten up our meetings, some which can be very somber, And in retrospect, knowing what we do about her illness today, it makes her all the more remarkable, given how positive she was and what an indomitable spirit she had. We miss her presence and her energy. Mahani was a remarkable woman who made her mark in the professional arena and left more significant impressions in people's hearts and memories. I got to know Mahani better when she kindly and generously accepted my invitation to her to be a member of the board of directors, firstly of the M Investment Services Berhad in 2004, and on the board of directors of M Islamic Bank in 2009, and the M Investment Management Berhad in 2012. Her all-round expertise, including macroeconomic management, and also being politically savvy, were very valuable inputs on our Islamic Bank and investment bank's activities. Some of the staff in an investment research department were her former students, and I believe she went out of her way to even guide and nurture them, of course, to our branch. She was kind and generous and hospitable. Board members and staff, she often brought along roti night from Johor for their meetings. On the Islamic Bank Board, she consistently pursued the big picture, how the bank could contribute towards the development of Islamic finance, like banking as a whole, as an industry, through research, innovation, new products, etc. That was how she was looking at the big picture and very forward-looking. Although she was seriously ill, she showed her indomitable spirit and was always cheerful, smiling self. A joy to be with was one description of her. Even during her illness, she insisted on attending our meetings, and near the end, even by teleconferencing from hospital bed. She was one of those people who exuded an exuberant confidence that put those around her at ease, radiating charm and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I have great pleasure in launching the Malaysia Journal of Economic Studies special issue to honor the memory of our late Dr. Mahani, Zainal Abidin. Thank you.
Thanks, May I invite you to launch the special issue by pressing the button on the stand next to the rostrum. Launch of this special issue.
Deans and lecturers in Faculty of Economics, my good friend, Dato. Friend, thank you for coming. I know how to give this speech. You still know a good friend of mine passed away. It's very difficult to say something. I just just want to say that, firstly, I thank President Indonesia for inviting me to make this remark, remembering our beloved friend, good colleague, Dr. Mahani and Zainal Abidin. The late Mahani is a close friend to all of us. We are sad over her untimely demise. God created us, and to Him we shall return. Perhaps my acquaintance with her is not as close as many have. She has served as a member of the academic MFA with many of you here. And you all are definitely closer to her than I am. My acquaintance with late Mahani was first with Satuan Economic Malaysia. She invited me to join the committee. Then the chairman, if I'm mistaken, was Dato. Tan Sri Raymond was also active, Tan Sri Lindsay was also active in the committee. So we joined the committee of the Satuan Economic Malaysia, and I've stayed till now. As you know, PM, Satuan Economic Malaysia is an association of those interested in promoting the teaching of economics and promotion of economic ideas, principles, and thoughts in the industry, and especially in the government. The late Mahani had given much of her energy and time to the Satuan Economic Malaysia to make the organization strong, credible, respected. I think she was the secretary of the association then when I joined. She was very committed to the Satuan Economic Malaysia objectives. Perhaps it is no exaggeration to see that PM today is a few dedicated members of whom Dr. Mahani was one of them. Her friendliness, kindness, gentleness, devotion, and charm, if I may use the word, not many of us, me in particular, to remain attached to Satuan Economic Malaysia since 1990. So I've been together with the committees, and I share the ideals of PM since 1990 and on her education. When she called me, would you like to serve the committee? So I started then. I didn't know how much later because I was not recognized much. Thus, this occasion today, where Satuan Economic Malaysia dedicates the special Journal of Economic Studies to Dr. Mahani, I think is indeed a gesture, great gesture by us in remembrance of our colleague. Gesture is most befitting to her as an academic, as an academician. Perhaps there's one way academicians want them to be remembered. My second acquaintance with Mahani was when I was seconded to the Malaysian Economic Association by no other than Tan Sri Raymond. Just me to go there. So I meant you're appointed, you're seconded, then go now. No, I cannot say no. And Sri Raymond is here. So I was sent to MIR and I said, I got a big project under VT, the second Dutchman's Bank, and I called Mahani, would like to serve as a research fellow in MIR to enhance our analytical capability on a part-time basis. She accepted just to come on Saturday, just on Saturday or one another half day. She came to help. And good enough, then I managed to secure a project with the Treasury, VT, second industrial plan. So I brought her and I gave her a very important section of the job, look to the automotive industry. It's very difficult because one hand we have the National Car Project, to be highly protected. On the other, VT wanted to have a liberal automotive sector. The balancing that is very easy. I find no other person. I gave Mahani the job. So Mahani helped me. And she did a wonderful job. The balance between Mahathir on one hand, Rafida another. And she did a wonderful job. So if you look at the second industrial plan, the chapter on automotive industry was done by Mahani, and many of you may not know. But as consultants, we were supposed to remain behind the scene. So there was no quotation of my doing the second industrial plan, but there was a basis for the second industrial plan from 1996 to 10 years. I think the only Proton tried to follow it very much, especially during the time of Tengku Mahathir. He still acknowledged that he followed that chapter very closely. He said. So Mahani helped me in balancing that difficulty between MITI, which wanted to rise the economy, and our great Prime Minister then wanted to heavily protect our second car project. So Mahani was helped me to come up with that dilemma. Of course, my next acquaintance with Mahani was during the famous, or rather the infamous financial crisis of this nation in 1997-1998. She was appointed by the government, as mentioned earlier by Dato just now, part of the team to examine the whole dimension of the crisis and to recommend policies and strategies for the nation to come out of the deep crisis then. Dato Clifford was involved too, and the team came out with the National Economic Recovery Plan. And that was the basis of many unconventional and daring measures that the nation mounted to come out of the crisis. I was here at the Secretary then. In order to move forward then, we got to meet often, literally from Dato Tom, his part of the team, the late Zainal, part of the team, and Dato Manazmi, and also Dato Lin Xian, both of the team. Sometimes they need something like twice a day, very demanding. We demand him then in the main table. It's very, very difficult. But he was there money. What meetings and, of course, it was considered national service. I wonder whether she was paid for that at all. It's so difficult to get approval from the Ministry of Finance. Anyway, I must apologize to her family, Don in particular, and maybe Imran, the son, for taking much of her time to serve the country, to serve the nation. What to do, you are in national service, and most of us in this service are called to serve the country, so the country comes first. But I think when I came back, she contributed a lot to the country. As a friend and colleague, I feel the loss. I think she's too young to die. However, as a Muslim, I can only say that Allah knows best. Allah is most forgiving, most compassionate, most merciful. I pray that her soul be among the prophets and those who do good in this world. Let me conclude by saying, may her soul rest in peace. Amen. Thank you very much.
Actually, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family of Mahani, when I met Dawn at the Lake Club a couple of weeks ago, I immediately realized that my recollection of her is all about 40 years ago. And the reason is this: when I met an old friend for whom the adjective old has both meanings applying to him, I was actually looking at a mirror at my own age. We are both getting on. And secondly, when I talked to him, what came up was something like Chittagong. And I remember Chittagong as one of the first projects that Dawn was doing when we met. So what I would like to do today, when I share my reminiscences with you, is to take on the persona of a former member of the Faculty of Economics, with the word former in capital letters. What do I remember of Mahani of 40 years ago? I remember passing to Mahani a piece of paper during her convocation, and the big photos of her convocation you will see later in the video. You see, Mahani was only one of two people I had the privilege of giving a first class honors to. I mean no disrespect to everybody here, but at that time, she and I were members of the Division of Statistics, and the Division of Statistics was far from being the most popular of the 7 divisions in the faculty. That honor belonged to the effervescent Hacharan Singh. So, when she joined me as a member of the faculty late in the 70s, just before I left the university, what struck me about Mahani was that she was a straight-talking person with the added gift that she could actually incorporate economics into English, into common English language. This is a rare gift because most economists are measured by how little they actually understood. Good economists are measured by being understood by only other good economists, and great economists are measured by people who no one else will understand except themselves. So she has that ability, straight talking, very clear about what she wanted to say. Now, I knew then that she would make a great policy strategist, a great policy advisor, but she would make a lousy politician. I am glad in retrospect that she chose her career path wisely. Shortly after our association as colleagues in the faculty, I left. But during the time I was away, there was a long time. It was much longer than the time I was at the faculty. I would still hear of her through the media, sometimes through friends, but we never met. I came back about 10 years back, and my second acquaintance with Mahani began again. I think at that time, our meetings were basically, thanks to PM, EXCO meetings, some functions that PM organized, some functions that ISIS organized, and we would meet. And every now and then there would be a chance meeting, for instance, like the one in which Poping and I misread the announcement of ISIS for a seminar. We blundered into ISIS, and there she was, and we had a full hour of heart-to-heart talk with her. So the times have changed, and I think to some extent our interaction has decreased. Then the news came one day that Mahani had passed on. It was the very day that I was attending a memorial, a 10-year memorial to another dear friend, Mohzani, and it was exactly that day. What I felt then was probably best expressed by a Chinese saying, which goes something like this: when the trees wanted some calm, the winds would not stop. But when the children want to serve the parents, they are gone. So this is the sense of loss that I had when I heard about it. It was a big blow. It was a blow that was added on to the sense of loss when Dato Mohzani left. But now, in my second life, my second reincarnation, as I walked the corridors of the Faculty of Economics, I could almost imagine meeting up with a young Mahani in exactly the same way that we would meet up 40 years back. Now, this is partly because the Faculty of Economics is exactly the same as it was 40 years ago. What I find in my room is that the air ducts and the air conditioning is no longer working, and so they're papered by water. Papered over and sealed. And I'm sure all the rest that used to occupy those ducts are long gone, and their descendants will probably migrate to greener pastures or greener ventilation ducts. But this is my memories of Mahani. I think I have spoken enough already, but I will not like to end without having to thank the PM, people like Siuman, Normala, and others who made this reminiscence possible for me to share some thoughts with friends and family. Thank you very much.
Tan Sri Azman Hashim, Tan Sri Sharif Muhammad Qasim, Tan Sri Fong Chanon, Tan Sri Raymond Navaratnam, Tan Sri Robert Clifford, the family of late Dr. Mahani, Zainal Abidin, Datin Mahanyun, Don, Imran, Professor Chandra Muzaffar, Tan Sri from Mabuk, Tan Sri Amda Qasim, Professor Dato Roma. I would also like to mention there are a few deans here. I'll talk about them later, deans of the faculty. I'm here largely to represent the faculty, so I can't be as personal as say, Chong Bi Chong, who himself was a former dean. So as a faculty member, she wasn't a faculty member when I joined. I joined in 2004. She had left by then. Now she actually joined to do her undergraduate studies in 1974. She got a bachelor's in economics, and as what Professor Kichok mentioned, she got her first. Then she did a master's at London School of Economics and Science, specializing in statistics. She did a PhD, finishing in 1992. Interestingly, the same year I finished my PhD. Now, she retained her Jabatan Hakiki at until 2006, before she decided to leave. She, in fact, was promoted to super scale D by then. Now, as a dean, I thought that to do justice to her contributions, I spoke to people who remembered her fondly as her student. In fact, some of them said she was a passionate teacher. She was a fantastic teacher. So I was very impressed because I never knew that side of her. I know she was a prolific economist, but I knew little about her capacity to be passionate in the way she taught. I actually spoke to her too many times to return when I got to know her, but she wasn't coming back. Now let me speak, and I suppose maybe, I'm sorry that we have former deans, Professor Dr. Hong Chan Hoff, who's here, He Chok, and there's Professor Norma, they're all former deans. I suppose I may have grade. I'd like to think that I'm the youngest among them. But having said that, let me mention that I always liked reading her work, because I was taught as an economist to appreciate work, knowing that economics is a divided field. I considered her to be one who favored deregulation, liberalization. I saw the image of Bhagwati in her, maybe Professor Muhammad Arif, among others, which was quite clear to me. But somehow I felt that for someone who specialized on international trade and finance, I thought working with government meant that she would have obviously dealt with issues, real life issues. And there I feel, again, I'm not sure if I'm capturing her well. These are three occasions that tell me that she may have had other views. Once she had a talk, for some reason, maybe because I spoke Malay well, maybe the teaching style of my former mentor, one of my mentors, Professor Chandra, motivated me to articulate myself well in Malay. She actually gave me 70% of the time to speak, and we had a 40-minute program. And there I was talking about affirmative action. I very much supported that, but not ethically though. And she actually quite liked it. So for someone who may have taken some sort of, again, I wouldn't say she was very much a Friedmanian or a Hayekian, but more a Bhagwatian. But I felt that she was able to appreciate that. Three circumstances I mentioned to her, one of which is that if you have a situation where 40% haven't had enough the basic needs, you may have problems in society. Society is unequal. And at least you make them happy. The second point I mentioned was, there is this famous Gary Becker theory, that if you have people who are poor, it's because it's between risk and reward, people are likely to steal. That's the sort of argument he expounded. And there you may have more crime. And the last one I felt, which I thought was the most dynamic part of affirmative action, is to provide the essentials so that people would activate their thinking faculties, so they would participate, not just those 60% up there, but also the remaining 40% in contributing to the nation's innovation. I thought she liked that. The other occasion when I felt that, in fact, I was working with her on a UNDP project in 2009. We wrote a report. I think we have Stephen there, who also was assisted at that time. I mean, typically, classical economics says that when you have a crisis, they always talk about an exogenous event that happens and you have a crash in effective demand. And even then, typically they would say, leave it to markets. You bite the bullet. But she was happy to go with fiscal stimulus then, which is obviously very Keynesian. So my feeling is she was very, very much well-grounded economist. So in that sense, I don't want to take much of your time. I'm sure you've heard enough. I'd just like to thank you for allowing me, on behalf of the faculty and the university, to say something about Mahani. And I must say that I was shocked when I heard that she had passed away, because we had just started to work together and we had plans to do more work together. Thank you very much.
Dato. My name is Stephen Wong. It was my privilege to have known Mahani both as a friend, as well as a colleague and a superior. When she passed, it was my grim duty to actually receive a lot of messages of condolences. And you would be surprised. You would expect a few, but they just kept on coming. And these were from noted scholars, diplomats, from throughout the region actually. Many of these I forwarded to Don, because actually they were for him, for the grieving family. But it became clear to me that these were not professional relationships. These were people who actually thought of her as a friend, as a colleague, as a comrade in arms. Some of the messages of condolences were quite formal, some were very personal. Right? And there were many. There were many. In fact, even after a few months after her passing, news was still filtering through the community, and they were coming. So this tells me that, she was more than just a good economist and a professional economist and a good speaker at conferences, etc. She actually made good friends throughout the region, and many of them remembered and cared to go out of the way to send words of comfort, both to ISIS, she passed as the chief executive of ISIS, and also to the family. I remember one of the last occasions meeting with her in her home, and she was dedicated to a tea because she was still struggling even with her illness. And I remember telling her, I said, there comes a time when you have to look after yourself. ISIS will survive, the organization will survive, but you have to look after yourself first. And it comes a point where you have to put yourself first. But this was her problem. She never put herself first. It was always something else. And I think by doing that, she built up this very strong relationship of friends throughout the region who still fondly remember her. And until today, when I travel to the conferences, people will come along and say, "Oh, I remember your colleague, the late Dr. Mahani." And I think that is a tribute that speaks more than many of the publications we can come up with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharif. Thanks, Asman, Don, and Mahani's mother, Kijok, and all the former colleagues of FBA. I particularly want to stand up here and talk a little bit about Mahani, because Kijok and myself, in our early days at the faculty, we have a special working relationship with Mahani, which we found to be very meaningful and very purposeful and successful. At one time, we were always on the same research team, carry out surveys on many projects. In one particular project, we were conducting a survey on the development of Pasir Gudang Johor Port. And of course, we'll fly down to Skudai Airport, from there take a taxi to the port. And one day we were coming down, taking a taxi. Mahani sitting at the back. I was sitting in front, Kijok was sitting in front. I think one of us driving, and Kijok and myself driving. And then one guy came out from the airport. "Hey, I'm going to the port, can I take a lift from you?" Look at this white man going to the port, Johor port. Sure, coming. And there they were, Don and Mahani were sitting at the back, studying, "Hello, who are you?" So they were talking away. We did 45 minutes to Johor port. And we came back, we did our survey, did our research. And of course, we make the occasional trip to Johor port. And about a year later, I asked Mahani, "Hey, how come you're so busy, You know the guy we met in Johor port? He's not my boyfriend, and we're going to get married." I said, "What?" That was really the fondest memory I had of Mahani. He was a good researcher, and in the process, she found herself a husband, and Dawn found herself a wife. And after I left the faculty, of course during the faculty days we always thought very fondly of Mahani. She was one of those who exemplified, to me at least, that to be a good economist, you need a solid mathematical quantitative foundation. Coming from statistics, although in the division of statistics they don't take too much economics, but with that basis, you could very easily migrate yourself to finance, international trade, and what other issues that need to be analyzed. And she really exemplified what a practical economist ought to be. That is, not only immerse yourself in theory, but also have to reach out to the outside world, understand the practical problems, and relate the theory to solve those problems. After all, the fundamental assumption of economics is markets perfect. But we all know outside there, the market is never perfect. So how do we adapt to that kind of situation? Politicians, we adopt in different way, academicians adopt in different way. And I agree with Kijok. She shows the way that she wanted to contribute to society, and in the process, not only enhance her reputation, but also enhance the reputation of the Faculty of Economics and Administration, of which we are also very proud of. And I wish many, many more of our graduates coming out in the future could follow her footsteps, so that together we can not only remember Mahani, but we can foster the image of Mahani by remembering and establishing that image for the FEA. But now it's called Faculty of Economics and Administration, also Faculty of Accountancy. I'm glad, and I wish the likes of her, Professor Norma and all the rest, keep up the good work, so that together we can keep the spirit and the quality exemplified by the late Dr. Mahani going on to be even heightened and enhanced in the future. Thank you.
The family of the late Professor Mahani, Don, Mahani's mother, the son, and everyone else. Tan Sri Sharif, Tan Sri Asman, Tan Sri Raymond Navaratnam, Tan Sri Clifford, and all the others who are here, friends. I would like to say a few words on this occasion, mainly because Mahani was also associated with an effort which is not known, and that's a shame actually, because she was part of Yayasan One Malaysia. She was a member of the Board of Trustees. I chaired that Board of Trustees. She was actually the treasurer. And I suppose one of the reasons why this is not highlighted is because national unity, in reality, takes a back seat in this country, which is why we have so many challenges facing us. But this is something we have to remember. Her dedication to the nation in the largest sense, it was not just economics. She was concerned about something which is so vital to the well-being and the future of this nation. This is why when we decided to set up the Yayasan One Malaysia in 2009, Tan Sri Lilamkai and I, we felt that we needed someone like Prof. Mahani with us. Mainly because of her role as a public intellectual, as a person who was concerned through her economics with national integration, the well-being of this multi-ethnic society. And I must say this, that Mahani was a pillar of strength to all of us. I'm saying this not simply because as human beings we always say good things about those who have left us, but this is a reflection of what she was within Yayasan One Malaysia. She gave so much time to this small, modest endeavor of ours. Though she was involved in so many other things, but she somehow found time to help Yayasan One Malaysia. She would attend as many of our meetings as possible. She would contribute in all sorts of ways to the foundation. And I was very impressed by what she did for us. The 4 years that she was with us until she passed away. I'd known Mahani before that, before Yayasan One Malaysia, as an academic, a fellow academic, and interacted with her. But it was through Yayasan One Malaysia that I really came to know of her passionate commitment to the nation, to people. We miss her very much. Like everyone else here, one hopes that her good work will continue. And I'm glad that Persatuan Ekonomi Malaysia has done this. I would like to commend the PM. It is so important for professional bodies in our country and for academic organizations and those associated with the world of knowledge and ideas to try to perpetuate the memory of people who have made contributions like this. Because we don't do that. It's not part of our tradition. And I'm glad that before 1 year is over after her passing away, we have decided to do a thing like this. And this is why I thought that I should come here to lend support to this really worthwhile endeavor. Thank you very, very much. May her soul rest in peace.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. And a very good afternoon, Datin Mayun, Tan Sri Sharif, Tan Sri Azman, John, Tan Sri Fong, Tan Sri Herbert Clifford, Tan Sri Sulaiman, Dato Hamza, Prof. Raja, Dato Chandra, and friends and colleagues, and also James and the fiancé. Yeah. It's not easy to even close an event such as this, because I think after going through, watching what Dato Mahani has done and has contributed to the nation as well as a colleague to the faculty, it's not easy to describe the feeling. Yeah? Thank you, the Persatuan, for giving me the opportunity to represent the Persatuan, to thank each and every one of you for being here and for taking time. But I think we all come here for a common purpose, to remember Mahani. Mahani was my lecturer when I was in the first year doing my undergraduate program at the University of Malaya. She was a colleague, and also later she was a colleague with me at the National Economic Advisory Council, and we have at least 2 council members here with us. I was the secretary to the National Economic Advisory Council, and we came up with a new economic model, which becomes the basis of the 10th and 11th plan. And the 2 council members who are here today is Dato Nicholas Zephyrs and Dato Hamza. They're both here, and they're very close to Dato Mahani. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, and let's all pray for her soul to rest in peace. What I can say is Mahani, rest in peace. And once again, thank you, and enjoy the high tea, and I'm sure we can continue to reminisce and to remember her. Yeah, thank you.